Hey, Robert, it's so great to have you with us today. Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and tell us about your genius zone?
Hello, hello. Well, thank you for having me on here. And yes, you know, people call me America's identity expert, and that's because my genius zone, I guess you could say, is in the realm of identity and as it relates to personal data, not other forms of identity, but personal data and how to protect yourself on the internet and make life easier by rearranging how we manage our identity credentials. And yeah, I mean that's generally. I want to give you succinct answers here. So
Oh, it's no problem. We want to hear all of the juicy details. And so tell us what you're working on and what that looks like for you.
yeah, so what I do, me personally, my why of what I'm doing is I want to give people complete control over their personal identity credentials, their data, just and their identity electronically in the digital world. I want to give it to them, control over their credentials and data everywhere on the internet. And that's a huge task, but that's my underlying why. And the reason why I want to do it is because I had, personal issues where a whole bunch of problems were being, you know, well, there was one problem that was being manifested by tons of different little problems. So I can tell you my story right
Love
now.
to hear about it.
Okay, I'll do that and then I'll get back to what we actually do. But so 3 years ago, like many people who may watch this or yourself, I had so many passwords because I was starting a business. So I had definitely over 200 passwords and I was using a spreadsheet and then I converted over to a password manager and it just became extremely difficult because then I had to manage the password manager and those things don't work all the time exactly how you want. Anyway, that was just one problem that has to do with my credentials. I also was getting robocalls, which of course is a problem where we can't manage and control who's allowed to call us and leave us voicemails and send us text messages. So I was dealing with problems with passwords, had way too many, and then robocalls, and then I was a victim of identity theft and I kept receiving multiple notices of my identity theft and data breaches and yeah, everything just accumulated into one at one point in my life where I felt like I was, walking around in a straitjacket because there was absolutely nothing I could do to get like how do you even get rid of robocalls? I mean, you can install an app, but then you still get robocalls. You can get a password manager, but you still have to manage all the passwords and create them, you know. In other words, I did not have control, and that's what frustrated me and just made me want to change and I realized that I couldn't change it on my own. So that's where I decided, hey, now I realize what the one problem is, and it's how we manage our credentials, how we prove our identity. That's the root issue that we're solving is we're simplifying how we prove our identity, and that gets into what we do. Did you have any comments before I?
Yeah, I just am obsessed with what you do. I think it's so important. And I do think it's such a big new conversation that, as bite sized as we can break it down and as relatable as we can make it as possible, because what you're doing is so powerful. And on our initial call where we were talking about it, it still took me some time to kind of wrap my head around just how amazing it is. I think all
Yeah,
people relate to having a million robocalls. Like, nobody wants that. Nobody wants their identity stolen. And it's so much more common and such a bigger threat now in the age of like digital banking, cryptocurrency, all of these, like you're saying,
yeah,
having a million online passwords. It's like we're just throwing our identities out there. And if I understood right, part of your marketing technique is once everything's all set up, you're actually going to give your full social security number out just to show that like there's nothing anyone can do with it if it's protected in the right way. Is that right?
that's exactly right. So I'll just say what we do then. What Grape ID does is we help people and businesses manage their sensitive data in a way that is 10 times more secure, efficient, and profitable. And what that means is in the end, yeah, we need to change our mindset from living a life right now where we fear giving out our information, because people can use it against us. Obviously, that there are so many examples of that. But once we change our mindset and use a tool, the electronic ID, then that enables us to protect our own identity, because no one will be able to use our social security number or our phone number or email or any piece of data. They won't be able to use it against us because we have control. They have to, and then we can get into that in just a moment of like what do you mean you have control over your social security number? But yeah, it's just a new mindset that we need to have, where there is a life on the other side of the internet, where you don't have to be worried about people constantly using your information and taking advantage of you. So yeah.
Yeah, tell us about like how that looks. Like, what does that mean? Just like you were saying, what does that even mean to have control over your social security number?
Yeah. So it all comes down to one thing. When you use on your smartphone, when you use the Grape ID app, it's essentially, well, it's quite literally your unique identifier for the internet. It's the only way that anyone can pretend to be you or claim to be you. So in the way that we use to verify your identity is a multi-tiered process, where up to, in the beginning, it's up to 20 different ways that will verify your identity. So if we just compare two different use case scenarios, when you log into a website, how many different ways are they verifying your identity to give you access to your bank account?
Yeah,
Usually just
like
one.
one or two.
I mean, yeah, because you have a username and a password. That's technically considered one. And then sometimes you have two-factor authentication. So maybe you have two. But when you use your electronic ID, Grape ID, to log into your bank account or to go to the teller or the ATM to withdraw cash, any transaction, it automatically has up to 20 different layers. And it gets complicated. Most people don't care about knowing exactly how, but just know you've got 20 different ways that verify your identity. So if someone wants to pretend to be you and withdraw, $100 even, then they have to go through your security. They have to have your phone. They have to do a face scan or a thumbprint and a password or whatever you set up, because you have control over what's required. So the use case is a little different too. If you're logging in or signing up to play a game, they may not really care. They may just want to know that you're human. They don't need to know that you are, your name and all the information about you. But when you're creating a new bank account, then they need to know more about you. And that's where, in either case, using your Grape ID can prove that you're human, or it can prove your complete identity. It can even prove your identity without them knowing who you are. And I know that may not make a lot of sense, but
It's kind of like a two-way mirror. So like if the business, for example, like let's just use like say I am playing a game and let's say they do want to verify my whole identity. And so like it would say, yes, this identity is real, without giving all of my name and all of my information to the actual business on the other side of that verification. Is that right?
exactly. And we have this thing called the Grape score, where not only do we just say, yes, they're a real person, but if someone, say a game, a gaming company, if they have they can determine what level of confidence that you are who you claim to be. They can just look at the Grape score, and if you have a 60% Grape score, that means there's a 60% chance that you actually are who you claim to be. But if you have a 99%, then just by looking at the score, they'll know that there's a 99% chance that you are exactly who you claim to be. And that just makes it so simple, because they don't have to know anything about you, but they can be 99% positive that you are whoever you claim to be, or that you're a real person. And they can even see exactly how you were verified if both parties, like if you and them both agree that that you're going to exchange that information. Like, if they want to know maybe that you did scan your face and that you scanned your thumbprint, they can see, without knowing anything about you, they can see how you were verified. So it's it's not too complicated technically, but I feel like most people just feel reassured knowing that there's a very scientific approach to it. Yet
Absolutely.
simple.
And so there's three things that I actually want to talk about this. And so I'll just kind of breeze over them and then you can dive into that as much as you want. The first is just, in my personal opinion, how important this is. Like, yes, obviously major businesses, obviously
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, obviously anyone who's sick of robocalls or anyone who's putting their credit card information or anything online. Obviously it's important for all of those situations. But I really want to highlight, just based on some of the conversations we've had previously in the podcast, you know, toxic relationships romantically and with roommates and things are like so common. And so if someone, like, if your partner happens to know your password and all it takes is like a thumbprint, like I have personally had a toxic relationship partner do that while I was asleep. And so that means that anything that has that level
Like
of
they
like,
grab your thumb while you're
yeah, while
sleeping and
I
they
was
put it
asleep,
on it.
put my
Like,
thumb on my phone and unlocked it that way.
oh wow.
Yeah. And so, like, it's just like, even if you're like, oh yeah, you have to scan my face, or oh yeah, I use a thumbprint, it's like, that's not always like protection. And so
Yeah.
it's so crucial, like you're saying, like this 20 layered identity, like proving who you are, that is not existent really out there in the world. Like, that is high level security on your identity. And so I
Yeah.
want to give you kudos, because I just think that this is like, so many people are like, oh, you know, maybe not think that that necessarily applies to them. But I can promise you that if your crazy ex can access your information, like a lot of technically advanced people who are hackers and like all of these people who like make a goal of accessing people's identities, they can absolutely do it too. And so I just think this is such an important conversation, and just thank you for being here and sharing it with us and telling, like, and just doing what you're doing to be, because like you said, this is a massive movement. This is not like an overnight change. We're changing the way the entire world identifies with their identity, essentially, in order to
Yeah.
really have your product gain a lot of traction. And so I just really hope that that happens so rapidly for you, because it's critical. It's so critical. I want to know more about how you determine the GRAPE score. And I also want you to share with us, because you have some major funding behind this. And I want you to tell us a little bit about that also.
Okay, so the grape score, well, first off, thank you for providing that example, because that's not one I've necessarily thought about, but that's actually quite amazing because what you're talking about is device security, and we're not quite even there yet, because then that requires integration with Apple, Android, Windows, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, when you have complete control of your identity, not just on the cloud or on the internet, but actually on your device, yeah, I would so much prefer to be able to choose. I mean, you can choose if you want a face scan or a thumbprint, but you can't choose a combination of them or have it basically be intelligent so that if you're logging in, and it suspects that it may not actually be you, then it can change how it authenticates you. Like that's what that's basically it's an intelligent way of verifying your identity, and that's to answer your
Anything
question
begins with
about
a
the
Q, let's
great
add an
score.
extra layer of verification in there. Is that right?
Sorry, what's that?
It's like, if your device or the intelligent system is like, has any reason to suspect that maybe this isn't you, whether it's any kind of scan or whatever, that it can automatically, based on what you've set as your settings,
Yeah,
add in extra layers of verification. Is that right?
that's right. Yeah, we're trying to make it simple so that you just say, hey, I want extreme security all the time, or I want a little above average, or I want the average, but I want higher security with financial things or maybe my devices. Like you can pick, and you can get down so granular. In the future, we're going to make it more granular, but in the beginning, we're just going to keep it simple where you can say, depending on for your device or you, stuff like that, where you can just pick generally the level of security that you want, and then we take care of the rest. And then over time, it'll be you can have a little more granular control over it. It's a huge thing to create, because obviously this doesn't even exist anywhere where we have that ability to control how not, because when we say we control how we are verified, we're just thinking about you and I, but the fact of the matter is there are so many people that want to hack us or steal our identity that that's the real reason we want control, is to protect from all the other people that are trying to access. And that's where the whole idea of the grape score is, that the the, the more time that passes where you do not verify, or depending on what you're trying to do, if you're trying to log in to a bank account versus logging into QVC to make a purchase, the Grape ID, it just remembers how you interact with society from a transactional perspective. That way it can keep track of what your behaviors are, and it knows who you are based on your behaviors. So even if someone completely got in, but then they started going somewhere where you don't normally go, then that's an indicator to the Grape score system. Hey, this is starting to not be like who they are, so we start reducing the Grape score or forcing them to suddenly verify more manually.
And so
So
if the grape score is like, hey, this isn't new, but it is actually you, all you have to do is go through that extra layer of verification, and then it like adapts your grape score to now this being normal behavior. Or how does that work?
yeah, it takes time, and just because you change your behavior, it is normal behavior to change your behavior, so it accounts for that. It's not like if you walk rigid and then suddenly you start free flow walking, it's gonna rate, but it will suddenly lower your score maybe a little faster in the beginning, and then you may have to manually verify once or twice. But in the big picture, like looking from a 3,000-foot view really high, even if you doing it that way is so much easier than verifying every single time you log in to any website. Every time I have to click on here, when I log into my notes, my Evernote, it makes me scan my thumb. When I log in to check the market stocks, I have to scan my thumb. And I will literally do that 5 times in 30 seconds. And I'm like, you would think that you don't have to prove your identity by scanning your thumb 5 times in 30 seconds. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. But with the Grape score system, your unique identifier and your unique way to authenticate, then you don't have to do all that, because it's smart enough to know, hey, he doesn't need to verify 5 times every 30 seconds.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
it's the same. And I get so frustrated because like one of my biggest examples is when I call, or like anything with like Bluehost, right? You have like to log in, which means your ID and your password, and then you have to give a validation token to prove what your account is, and that refreshes every 30 seconds. And it's like,
Yep.
why? And then you go on to one more website and you have to do like the captcha and like verify your identity this way. And so basically what you're saying, if I'm understanding right, is that by having all of your stuff in Grape ID, you just verify through Grape ID, and then it eliminates all of those extra things where you have to do it a million times.
Exactly. You verify with Grape ID, and then you don't have to verify anywhere else, because Grape ID is the verification for you. And doing it that way, it's actually so much more effective. So yeah, it's just kind of a no-brainer. The challenge is just marketing it and telling it in a way, that in a story where people, that's why I really did like your story, where if you can tell people, hey, when your boyfriend or girlfriend or whoever, significant other, is sitting right next to you, and you're not quite sure if you trust them, because you seem to remember, maybe it's a dream or maybe not, but they're lifting your hand, and like you seem to remember your finger going on, and then the next day you woke up and all your female friends or your other people are deleted off of Facebook, and you're like, did I delete them, or was it my crazy ex or whatever? Yeah, I have friends that go through that too, so I'm going to use that now from now on as an
Please do,
example.
because it happens all the time. Like I think it's way more common than people realize. It's like
Oh yeah,
a controlling partner looking over your shoulder for a password or something like that is like, you might not even realize it because you maybe you trust them more than you should, or they haven't given you a reason to be wary. but you shouldn't have to put that kind of pressure on your relationships. Like,
Yeah, you
know
shouldn't.
your ID is safe.
It could be with your kids. They could try to get into something. It could be with business partners or just any employee in a business setting. I mean, there are so many ways that that could happen. That, yeah, that's a great example. Another thing I wanted to mention is the transparency element, because obviously there's going to be a lot of identity. I mean, we don't have access to all of your data because we focus just on the verification aspect, but we will analyze behaviors that way because it's used to verify your identity. But the good thing, and because again, if we go back, I'm creating all this because I want it for my own personal self, just to protect myself. So I treat everything as if would I want that. And the thing that I've thought several times is, well, if they have all this information, like how do I know what they're doing with the information or whatnot? So we don't do anything unless you explicitly authorize it. Plus, we have I'm focusing, putting a lot of focus on transparency so that you can see what they call psychometric behaviors or profiles are. And that's just when algorithms analyze all of your behaviors and what you click and just everything, they can determine, without even you saying, they can determine what gender you are, what race or religion, if you're gay or not, or like all these things that you wouldn't even think they would know about you, like if you're pregnant or not, and you may not even know. They'll know things that you may not even know about yourself. But my goal is to show you all of the different things that the algorithm can find about you, and just show you this is just what the algorithm shows about you. That
That's
way you
great.
know what the computers and what the world could potentially know. Not that we do anything with it, because we just show it, and then potentially this gets into how you can make money, because there's a lot of information about what your interests are and your behaviors. And it makes sense to have businesses have that information, because they can provide you a better service at a lower cost, and it's just a better experience for you and I. But privacy and security has always clashed. Like, you have privacy and then you have all the data, but they just clash because you and I, we don't want our data just given out. We don't know what's going on. And but businesses need it. So when you use Grape ID, you can authorize businesses to review the insights or the analytics without knowing your identity again. So they don't know anything about you, but they can contact or target specific types of people if you opt in. And there's a whole way where we are making it so that people can make money. They can get paid to look at ads, get paid to use coupons, and take surveys and leave reviews. So the whole idea of Grape ID too is you can use your data to get paid in a way, like, without compromising your privacy and security
Mhm. That's
through
so
anonymization.
amazing. I just like the amount of thought and effort. Like, obviously, you want this for yourself because, like, the amount of thought into detail you put into this is just absolutely incredible. And so, I do want to just reword a little bit about what you were saying, just for our listeners, that this might be a little bit of a new conversation. Like Google, Facebook, Instagram, any social platform, basically any search engine, not all of them, but the internet in general is doing this anyways without your permission. Like, they're analyzing every keystroke, every click. A lot of them have access to the microphones and cameras in your device. Like, it's just
Oh
crazy
yeah.
the amount of stuff that they can access just by your computer, even if it's turned off. And so they're building these like avatar profiles about who you are anyways. It's already going on. And so with Grape ID, you can actually see like what picture they're painting about you. And then you can have control over, like you were saying, and so many businesses already understand the value of having that information. Like, that's how you target market. It's not necessarily about picking out the individuals. It's about understanding your ideal customers as a whole community so that you can serve them in a better way. And so with Grape ID, you can choose to participate or not participate in allowing those businesses to have, like you said, your behaviors and kind of that, like, so you're contributing to that collective community of information without necessarily risking any aspect of your identity. So they don't have to know who you are to know, like for me, for example, I'm like a 5'5" white girl who has a kid, and I make this much money every year. So it's like they can access like characteristics about who you are without knowing my name, my address, my kid's name, my social security number, my phone number, any contact. And so you're still supporting the business market without necessarily putting yourself up on the front lines.
You got it exactly. It's
incredible.
Yeah, you got it exactly. And it's supporting them, but it's actually even giving them more data than they want, because they have there's a lot of transaction friction, or let's just say they have to like pry information out of us and go behind our backs and try to get it. And that takes a lot of effort, time, and money on their part. So if there's just a place where they can just say, hey, I want to know all this about you. And you're like, sure, okay, but you have to pay. And when they pay you directly. Grape ID gets a commission, and that's how Grape ID generates revenue. But they're paying directly you and I for our money. For our data. And yeah, it's just it eliminates the middleman and guarantees privacy, anonymity, and security. It's just a beautiful, not that I'm not toting my own whatever. I'm just saying it's a beautiful way that it works, where it's just direct.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And so it's like, yes, like we were saying, you can opt in and be part of market research without putting up any aspect of your identity. You don't have to worry about, oh, I put my phone number in or my email into this form, and now I'm going to get bombarded with sales, or they're going to sell my information to some other company. Like we were saying, like your advertising when this is all ready to go is like giving your full social security number, because here you can have it. You can have my email, you can have my social, you can have like maybe even my bank account number. And
I'll give out everything, except I won't give out my location data, because that's the only thing that I'm still exploring because there's so much data. But I do know location data is the only one I can think of so far that I absolutely would not want to give out, at least my current location.
Mm-hmm. And so why is that?
Well, because if someone has your GPS location or your address, then they know where you are at right at that moment of time, and they could potentially harm you, or they know where you live and where you will be at, which is even worse.
Like harassment and physical protection rather than like necessarily like identity protection. It's like you don't necessarily be inviting the whole world to knock on your front door, but here is my sensitive information, and like have fun. There's nothing you can do with it, because essentially, like if anyone, like if you put your social security number out to 50,000 people on an advertisement and they all tried to do something with it, you would get like separate notifications in Grape ID that say, hey, this is like, is this you? Is this happening? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, if I put when I put my social and my phone number, so what happens is it depends on my settings. If I say, okay, we have to pick one, so let's pick the social. If I say I do not allow anyone to create my, a bank account or any sort of financial account through my social unless they verify, then that means if someone tries to do that, they have to verify. So I won't be notified if they can't even pass the verification process, which is beautiful for me, because I don't want to be annoyed every time, especially for celebrities or something, anyone high profile, let alone like even just me, when basically no one cares about me in the world because I'm not a celebrity. But I don't want to be notified 3 times or 1,000 times every time some random Joe like tries to hack my account. So unless they verify, then I won't even receive a notice, because they won't be able to do anything. So when they go to, let's say they go online and go to Bank of America, and then maybe they have my social and my phone number and whatever, we will have had to have already partnered with Bank of America. And Bank of America just knows we don't create any accounts unless we verify that Grape ID authorizes it. Not Grape ID, but that it's authorized through Grape ID, because that's what gives people control. So when the hacker may try to type in the information, they click verify or submit, then it does actually, there is a potential where if they're near you or in some certain circumstances, it may prompt you to verify. But if you just get a sudden random verification, it will also be accompanied by, hey, this is why you're verifying. So if you did get verified, then it would tell you why you're verifying, because it doesn't just say randomly verify.
Yeah, it gives you like a paper trail. So it's like, hey, there was a Bank of America account that tried to be opened and it failed. So now we just want to make sure this is you.
Yeah, but if someone was trying to create a Bank of America account, you probably wouldn't get verified. You wouldn't have to verify, because number one, they have a different GPS location. They have a different IP address, probably, unless they tried to fake it. I mean, we could get really technical, but the odds are you probably wouldn't you wouldn't even have to verify when some hacker tries to get in your account, if they know your information. Yeah.
This was so cool. And so tell us about some of the funding that you've had, because you've had some major grants and things to get this rolling.
Yeah, it's still, so we are still waiting on we've got some funding, and we had several investors, but one in particular that was going to fund us, and then the pandemic hit. So we're kind of in waiting mode to get bigger funding. But we do have two pending proposals with the US government. One is with the National Science Foundation, and that's for up to 1.75 million. And we're just waiting to hear back on that. And then we also have one with the National Institute of Health to help create a personal health record that will facilitate the development of coronavirus diagnostic tests, because they've allocated 200 million. They have all these people developing coronavirus tests. So we'd be providing a data control center and personal health record, but we're still waiting to hear back from both of them. They were supposed to tell people last month, but they're both delayed. So
Oh
what
yeah,
do you
with
do? And
Corona,
it's
you
government.
never really know what's going on. But to be even in the running for that is absolutely incredible. So I just want
Yeah,
people to realize, like this, like yes, as it's your baby, and like you've been working on this for I'm sure a while, but that there is like major attention on this. There are like you said, the U.S. government is interested. Like there are people
yeah,
who have this on the radar. Like this is some definite, seriously
definitely.
applicable up and coming technology. And I love how you shared also how it can be used also for coronavirus and medical records and things like that. Because with the world of technology, it's like when you figure out kind of how to do something, like with what you're doing with protecting identity, there are so many applications. As like once you get it rolling, you can kind of spin it in a million different ways, like corona management, or I know in the world of healthcare, it's so hard to share, like my chiropractor doesn't know what my GP said, and my massage therapist doesn't have the notes from my
Exactly.
midwife. And so it's like, if you could create a way where all of that information is safe, and you just partner with these different practitioners and businesses to opt in, and then I can have all of my healthcare be so much more cohesive.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing, is creating. So what people use in the healthcare industry right now is the electronic health record, or the electronic medical record. And it's great because it's electronic, but who hosts that? And the answer to that is each provider right now. And then they all have different formats. There's a lack of standardization and stuff like that. So we're just creating a platform that is a personal health record that you and I would personally own, so that any provider that we go to, they instantly, you scan a QR code or tap your phone, and they're like, oh, we know who you are, or have access to your health records, and we can see all of them that have ever been tied to your, any record that's been added to your health record. And it also, so it simplifies the world of healthcare, because you can access all healthcare services through one simple app by like scanning a QR code. That's it. And it helps with contact tracing or development of like research, uh, in terms of, so with contact tracing is all about where have you been, which is a location thing, who have you been near or contacted, which is a transactional thing. And Grape ID knows that because we verify your identity with, and we facilitate transactions. So we know where you've been because we use it to verify your identity. And if you want, you can just say, hey, yeah, I want to know if I've been exposed to someone who has been lab tested, confirmed coronavirus. And then for us, all it is we match it. Like a healthcare provider would say, this person tested positive. So they would notify on the Grape ID app. And then Grape ID just matches wherever you've been, whoever you've been around. And then it would notify you if you were in contact with that person and say, hey, here's the healthcare provider. And it probably wouldn't say exactly who they were for privacy issues, but it would let you know, and then the healthcare provider would tell you whatever you need to know.
It's
But it would just make
amazing.
that process so simple.
Yeah, because like right now it's a big guessing game, or you have to go get tested. And like sometimes, I have multiple family members who had no symptoms and then got tested just because and got tested positive and
Oh,
had no idea that they were even like in the vicinity of someone who had it. And then there's
yeah,
also like on the flip side, people who have it and still have no idea. And as healthcare practitioners or anyone who's like back out in the workforce in any degree is like, how amazing would that be? I know as a massage therapist, if I'm going to offer services, and if my app can tell me, hey, your client that's coming in 2 days was potentially like around somebody who maybe had it, like that's valuable information to have.
yeah, yeah. And there are a lot of problems with this, but another one that's really huge is the contact tracing apps that exist right now. Every single state has their own separate app.
Hmm.
And it's just annoying because they don't all work nationwide either. They're not all connected, as we've already talked about. Healthcare is not like that. So what I want for myself is just a simple way to have to get that peace of mind, knowing that wherever I go in the country, I can be contact traced or notified if I'm around someone who has it. And that's what Grape ID provides when it comes to coronavirus, is that peace of mind that wherever you go, you can be notified nationwide, and it's not limited to a particular geographical area or state or healthcare provider. So yeah, it that is just a battle again between privacy, security, and needing the data to contact trace people in the quickest way possible. And you can't do those two things unless you have a middleman that verifies and protects people's identity and gives you control. And I always like to say, we just host your data. We don't own your data. You own your data. You can delete it at any time, and then you'll have to start all over from scratch. Like, we don't get anything out of it other than the commissions,
Right.
from,
You don't have like a bank of everyone's information that you can
yeah, we don't use
access
it for
at any
anything.
given time.
Yeah.
Like it's still theirs and they can change it at any time. And I do want to reiterate also just how easy this is. Like, yes, it's a little bit of a complicated conversation. And so I'm sure if we got really deep into all of like the analytics and tech and all of
Yeah.
it, it could get really complicated really fast. But for the user and the consumer, it's just like tapping your phone, just like you're saying. It's one verification with Grape ID, and then you don't have to do it with every single thing that you're on. It's not, on the user end, a huge lifestyle change. It's just as easy as things you're already doing. You just download an app, tap your phone like you would do with Apple Pay or whatever the case may be, and you're good to go. And your identity is like what, 10 million times more secure than it would be with anything you're doing right now.
Yeah. I mean, I say 10 times just to be on the safe side, but 10 million times is probably, in some cases that's actually accurate, because some cases there's no security, and when you add any or ours, that would be probably 10 million times more. But yeah, it's so simple. You just download the app in 60 seconds. That's all it takes to register, and then we just send you emails to guide you through the process. And there's not really much to do other than we do all the work of connecting and partnering with all the different companies to help you get control. So it's a process, it's a journey, but the journey only takes 60 seconds to start. And then, like you said, when you use it, it's just a matter of tapping your phone to a device or another phone or scanning a QR code. And we've got other ways, Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, and then other cool ways using audio, but that's for another day.
Yeah,
But
no problem.
it's so simple that, yeah, you're exactly right.
And
And it's free too. There's no charge, to people.
mhm.
And yeah.
Yeah, so free for the consumer. The only way Grape Idea is making money is through, what was it, the commissions, if people choose to sell part of, not your identity information, but your non-sensitive information, like your
Yeah.
marketing details and things like that. That's how Grape ID makes their money.
Yeah,
And
there are three ways that, just to
yeah,
interject,
go
just for
ahead.
clarity's sake. Yeah, there are three ways that we make money, but the primary way is through the commissions.
Hmm.
There is an option where if people want to upgrade, I don't even pitch it to people. We just make it available, and it's $69 a year right now if people get in. Otherwise, in the future, it'll be $100 a year. But all that is if you want it, if you don't have it, there's no limitation on the service. But if you do get it, then we financially guarantee everything up to $1 million so that
Oh,
you're
wow.
protected up to $1 million, and we give you higher, like a priority technical support, just because when you give people, it's hard to do that without charging anything because it obviously is a
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah,
So
that's like
you get the million
identity
dollar
insurance.
yeah, you get the $1 million guarantee, and then you get more tech support, and then other things like access to features. And I didn't even remember all of them because it's just the minor. If people want it, great. And then we do charge businesses to access our sources, but that's just an access fee too. They're not paying for data or anything. Any data they pay for, they pay you guys. We get the commission, and yeah, there's full clarity, and it's anonymized and secure, safe, and simple. So
Yeah, you have full control over what
yeah.
they get, how much information they get. And this is just like amazing. I think you're just like so ahead, like I don't want to say ahead of your time, but like holy cow.
It's
Obviously
very
you've been
futuristic.
working on this for a
Yeah.
long time, and like just like I said, the attention to detail is absolutely incredible. I do want to loop back a little bit to the corona conversation, just because that can be kind of a hot topic there with contact tracing. Like you're saying, is like, yes, people want to know if they've been exposed, but no, they don't want, I remember like all of the rage, like the angry rage that happened when contact tracing started being a thing, is like they're, it's like they can access you through the app. It's like tracing all of your contacts and just like this, and it was a huge backlash against the privacy invasion there. And so what Grape ID has done is kind of show up as like the white in shining, the knight in shining armor, right? And like acting like, hey, yes, we can give you the information that you want while protecting like against the information that you don't want shared.
Exactly. There's a way to make it just flow seamlessly, smooth. All of the stuff that's going on in the country right now with that, it's just I'm just like, oh, but it takes a lot of time and effort to tell people about this and get people to understand and sign up. And yeah, it's obviously complicated, but yeah, it's so simple.
Yeah, it's like the most complicated, simple thing out there, right?
Yeah, it's the most
Complicated on the
complicated,
back
simple thing
end.
out there. And it's the service or app that people never knew they needed.
Mhm.
They didn't know they need,
And it's free and it can make you
it's
money
free.
and it's going to save your
Yeah.
identity. Like, just like there's like zero reason why you would not want to participate in this.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's just Grape ID, right? Is it in Android and Apple? Like, where can we get it?
Yeah, it's on Android and iPhone and Chrome extension
Awesome.
on yeah, on yeah, Chrome extension.
For like desktops?
Yes, and currently, if you use Gmail and with the Chrome extension, you can send encrypted emails to each other too. So, it's got a lot of other different things. In the end, there are three core components, and I think it's simple enough to say it on here because there are three. The first one is authentication, and that's what we've already talked about, the GRAPE score. It's identity authentication. The second one is a permissioning or authorization. So you give permission for people to view your data or to sell it or whatever. And then the
It's
third
on
one
a
is
case by case basis, right?
on a case by case basis, or you can, yeah, or you can set preferences broadly. And the third one is encryption. I mean, every time we talk with anyone, not only do we want to know that they are who they are and that you've given them authority or permission to talk to you, but you also want your messages to be encrypted and secure so that people, you may know who someone is, but if you send it and then someone intercepts it and just steals the information that's sensitive or whatever, it does no good. So encryption, and we're focusing a lot on what I see is probably 10 years from now, every single phone call could be encrypted, every single text message, every voicemail, every email, every communication in any form can be encrypted, and all of the encryption keys are just managed seamlessly through your Grape ID app.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But that'll take time to, of course, build everything out, but
But that's the direction it's moving in.
that's the
And that's
direction it's
amazing
going, yeah.
that you have that much of a trajectory. Like that's what
And it already works
is
with the
crazy and just
Chrome
where it's gonna
plugin.
go. What was that?
Yeah, sorry.
No,
It
that's okay.
already works with the Chrome plugin for emails and Gmail. So it's very specific in what is available right now, but
Mhm.
we've already starting to prove it out, and you can use it right now. But so it's getting there. It's actually happening.
Yeah, it's happening now. You can use it now, and it's only going to get epically more amazing and have more ways that it will be able to be applied I'm sure it's like every 6 months, every year. Like it's not going to be like
Oh
10
yeah.
years out. It's the ball is rolling and it will only continue to do so. So congratulations. Like you are like changing the face of technology and it's amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you, thank
Absolutely.
you. Yeah. I yeah, you don't know how much I like hearing your thoughts and taking all my jarble that I say and summarizing it in a way that's easier for people to understand. And I really appreciate that because it just helps me to know how to formulate my thoughts a little better because I'm so deep into it.
Oh yeah, when you're in it, it's like you use your own language, right? It's different language when you're creating something and developing all the technical side versus when you're bridging the gap from those who understand the conversation for those who are like this is a brand new topic. And so I'm thankful
Yeah.
that you explained it to me in a way where it makes sense to me. Like I can't wait to download it and use it and just watch you grow. And I literally want every single person that I know and everyone on the planet to use this because the more people use it right now, the faster it's going to explode. And like the whole fact of like how you're using it for healthcare just fires up every cell of my being because I've been thinking about that for like 5 years. Like, wow,
Yeah.
there really needs to be kind of a central communication for healthcare
Oh,
where we can write, like I could even maybe write the chiropractor a note like, hey, this is what I worked on and this is what I noticed. And it just like really, it's going to up level communication and identity protection and healthcare. It's like to have one thing that can magnify the like all of those categories is absolutely amazing.
yep.
Revolutionary is not even like that's an understatement.
Yeah, it all comes down to if you have a unique identifier for the internet, everything we just said and so much more is possible just because you have a unique identifier. What I think is interesting though is also in some of my videos I've talked about it where in real life we have just one unique identifier and that's our passport or driver's license depending on if it's international or whatnot. So I'm just I ended up thinking, why do we have one way to prove our identity in the real world? Why don't we have one way to prove our identity online? And that this is what that is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. Just like kudos. It's like incredible. And so is there anything like when you say your videos, like do you have a YouTube channel? Is that on your website? Like where can we watch your videos?
Yes, videos. I will have YouTube for sure, and also some on IGTV, Instagram.
Awesome.
And I have been, because there's so much I'm doing right now, I have not been posting every day, but probably by the end of this week I will be posting every day. Uh, so yeah, YouTube is the best, and then I will be doing every day mostly on Clubhouse. So if anyone is on Clubhouse, that's
Oh my gosh,
something.
what's your handle? Is it just at Grape ID?
It's Rob Anderson.
Nice, your name, which is
Yeah,
EN.
yes, Rob Anderson, SEN. And then on YouTube and all of those, every other social media, it's just Rob Anderson Show.
Awesome.
And I have to send you a referral link too, because if you put your referral link with this video and anyone who sees it, then it's an invite only. And so you can download the Grape ID app. You don't have to have an invite for that. But if you want to make referral commissions, then that is invite only. So anyone watching, then they just need to click on your link, and then you'll get paid based off of referring them. And when they refer people, they'll get paid. And even if they don't refer people, they'll get paid just from their own data, you know. So yeah, I'll send you that referral link so you can put it there. And then hopefully, you know, there's financial benefit as well for helping spread the word to make the world a better safe through a unique identifier for the internet.
Yeah, like why would you A, not want this for yourself? It's free, easy, and amazing. And then B, also super easy to get paid for like valuable information that is not like your critical, sensitive, identifying information. Like we said, it's your behaviors.
And you already do most of it.
Yeah, it's the
You
information
already
they're
click ads.
already taking from you, so you might as well get paid for sharing it with who
Exactly.
you choose to share it with, instead of just like this
Exactly.
kind of internet free-for-all that's already happening.
And it's retroactive too, where if maybe not, so if you suddenly hate Google, and I'm not trying to pick anyone out, but if you hate us, you know, if you decide you don't like a particular company, then you can go in and say, all right, I know I've given them anonymized data, but I don't even want them to have my anonymous data. So you say opt out for them, you just remove them from the list, and then they'll no longer get even your anonymized data because you'll have control.
Yeah, full control at the click of a button, like one setting away, and it's not complicated. Like you don't have to go digging around to find the settings. It's like
Yeah,
specifically made to be user friendly and only make
exactly.
your life better and only make like global, like humanity better in so many ways.
Have you ever downloaded your Facebook data?
Oh my gosh, that like even knowing that I can do that scares me. No.
Oh, it's scary. Yeah. I've downloaded it. It's just like a huge, if you just think of a database or a huge Excel list of just numbers and columns. And I would say it's kind of like that, maybe a little worse because it's not even in a spreadsheet. It's just data. And what do you even do with that? You are able to see some of it. Maybe it's not quite as bad as I'm saying, but for the average person, they don't know what to do with it. I mean, I'm not doing anything with it because it's not user friendly. So we're
Yeah.
trying to do the opposite, where not only can you see your data, but you can easily navigate and find what you want, even search it, you know, and interact with it so that you can stop people from now accessing data. If you see that they got it, then you can stop them from seeing it again.
The way
Yeah.
I think about, you know, like how you're saying like the Facebook data and all of that works is like I've definitely seen like metadata where it's just like letters and numbers and it's like this looks like code, and like it basically is. They're it's like trying to hide like the
Yeah.
information that they actually have on you. It is like secret code. And so what you're doing is like taking all of that secrecy away, like you said, being fully transparent. This is the information, this is what it looks like, and this is how you can control it, protect it, secure it, anything you need to do, or share it, make money on it, whatever you need to do.
Yeah, and you're hitting on something else that goes into censorship, which is, of course, another hot topic right now. But if you think about it, the fact that businesses or social media, especially, make it difficult or don't make it easy to access your own data, it's a form of censorship. Also, health records, because you can't access your health records, you can't access your credit, you know, your credit files without paying,
Yeah.
and it's all a form of censorship. And then with social media, they're censoring social media content, and they're creating algorithms based on their views of what you should see. So there's so much censorship going on, but that's the other thing. When you have Grape ID, a unique identifier, then it gives you a way to determine what is censored or not, because then you'll have control over it. Like, you get to choose what's censored. If you don't like a particular type of ad, or if you don't like a person's type of post, or maybe a certain type of content, or if you do want to see your health records or your credit file, or anything we've talked about, then you'll be able to, because of the transparency, you'll be able to just in a friendly way, see the information that right now you can't see. So
Amazing.
yeah. And I don't even know. Oh, we are getting near close to time, so I'll throw it back to you, because I can talk hours and hours about this
Oh,
stuff.
no, I mean, honestly, we don't really have like anywhere between 30 minutes and 2 hours is kind of how these calls go. So
Oh, okay.
if there's anything else you want to share, like, we would love to hear it.
Yeah, well, I like formats where people ask specific questions, because I don't like talking about stuff that people don't care to know about, since everything isn't applicable to everyone. If you don't have any specific topic, there are a couple things that I'll just say that are my favorites,
Yeah.
because I hate receipts, physical paper receipts. Every time you go buy something everywhere, you have another receipt, and they collect on the side of my, on the driver's seat, and they fall on the floor, and they go down the black hole between the seats. They're everywhere. And then when the accountant tries to do your taxes, or if you get audited, then, or whatever reason, for work reimbursements, you're like, gosh dang it, where's that receipt? What if they were just all electronically? Every business you go to, they just all arrived electronically, either in a file or in your QuickBooks or wherever you want. That's what we're trying to do with what we will do it with Grape ID as well, because you have that unique identifier. Any receipt that you get, it's just automatically electronic, and it goes exactly where you need. Because Home Depot or Lowe's or certain businesses, many actually, they do allow you, I'm sure they allow you to type in your email, and then you can send it. And sometimes they remember your email based on your card, but then when you change your card, then it just gets complicated. Why mess with that complication? Just use Grape ID, your electronic ID for the internet, and any business you go to, you just automatically get electronic receipts right there. And if you want both electronic and print, then you can just set that as an option, and then you'll get both. It's just so much simpler. That's one of the things I really can't stand, and I face every single day as well. Logins, passwords, robocalls, and receipts are kind of my epitome of all problems right now that I just
It's
face
like
every
just
day.
human waste in every
Yeah.
sense of the word.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited for that, but it will take time.
That's amazing. Like I said, it's just like, I am absolutely mind blown that this is not just like a one topic conversation. And like, you're literally like, these are the top 10 problems in the world, and let's connect them all with one thing and solve all of the problems with one thing.
Yeah.
Like I've never heard of anything so innovative in my entire life.
Well, what have you thought of anything personally that, whether you think it applies or not, what are some annoying things to you?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I have no idea. I would think receipts and robocalls are by far my most annoying. Also the crediting stuff, because you can sign up with companies that will monitor your credit or whatever, but like, it's not the same score as the three main institutes or companies that, like Equifax and all of that actually monitors your credit. And so I love that you've like incorporated that, because like, I mean, you're a business person, and like all of the pains of being in business. It's like just the red tape of life gets
Yeah.
so overwhelming, and you can literally just drown in it. Like, I don't know how many phone numbers I blocked. I don't know how many text messages I blocked, and it doesn't matter, because guess what? They have 50 phone numbers, and they just have my number in one system that cycles it through, so it doesn't matter how many I block because they can just call me again in 2 minutes from another number. And it's like,
So true.
I have a million email addresses because, all of a sudden somebody sold your information and now you get all of these things you never signed up for. And it's just like, I just don't have the time to delete it all. So I just rather make a new email address. And then life gets so messy. Like, I need everything
Oh
in one
yeah.
place. I need it to be concise. And so, like, I mean, you're just 100% speaking my language. And I, like every other entrepreneur out there, right? Like, simple is best. The more we can do in one place, that's amazing. Like, and this sounds like it really just covers everything.
Yeah. I mean, you use your identity in, or let's just say you use your personal credentials pretty much everywhere. Like in the most literal sense, you're constantly giving out, even just you and I, we want to know each other's names. And other people who watch this want to know your name or maybe my name. And just the fact that I'm handing out my name or your name or an email, or it's like you almost can't interact with anyone without providing some sort of credential. And any transaction every day, I should probably do this one day, just every time from the time I wake up, and I'm addicted to my phone, so I scan my thumbprint even before I get out of bed and it's still dark. Before I do anything, I'm proving my identity to my phone. And from there, like constantly proving my identity, I'm handing or exchanging credentials with a device or a person or both. That, yeah, it's hard to not. That was one of the struggles with this business, is how do you create something and make it simple when it's everything? Your credentials affect everything. So yeah, it's been a challenge trying to explain it in a way. Now it's just, I explain it like I did before. We just provide a way to people and businesses to manage your sensitive information in a way that makes it 10 times more secure, efficient, and profitable. And I just leave it at that, because at least people know generally what it is. And then, yeah, from there, it depends on what people ask or how they want to use it, that I usually customize, because it's so complicated yet simple.
Yeah, it's simple when you understand it, but the complexity, I think that might be a better word than complicated. It's complex
Yeah,
as
complexity.
far
No,
as
you're
what
right.
it's able to accomplish and how it does so. And then simple because, hello, these are common sense things. Like, yeah, robocalls are annoying. That's common sense. Receipts suck to keep track of. I mean, the ink fades, and like you're
Yeah.
saying, if you get audited, it's like, well, my receipt faded. You can't read it. Sorry. It's just like, but it needs to be electronic, and your bank statement can serve that to a degree, but it's not itemized. And so what you're saying is that these receipts would actually be itemized. You wouldn't need to keep track of the stupid loose papers, and like, I don't even want to talk about how long receipts are. You can buy one thing and get like 2 miles of
Oh,
paper. It's just like,
yeah.
so to even try and attempt to keep that in a file is just chaotic no matter what you do. Like, I don't care what your filing system is it's chaos.
Yeah, you said an interesting point too about the itemization, because a lot of people don't pick up on that. So you're a smart cookie. Because yeah, when you have a receipt and you type in your email and you get an electronic version, it doesn't mean that it's itemized, where it just means it's either like a picture of a receipt that would have otherwise normally been printed out, or sometimes it's a searchable PDF document where you can search for the words, but there's no association with product codes or anything on a line by line basis. Also, if it's a searchable document, it makes it difficult to process what exactly is an item, because they involve different rows. And if you're trying to automatically determine how much, here's a real life use case. If you and I want to know how much we've paid to take customers out, to dinner or something like that for sales meetings, how do you know which ones are sales meetings or not? Obviously, you'd have to categorize, but how do you know if you went to, like a restaurant or I'm trying to think of one that sells both goods and services. Let's just say, because I don't have a better example, you go to Walmart. Maybe you bought them a sandwich because you're really cheap, or maybe you bought a tire for your car. If you have a receipt, how do you know which one is for the sales meeting or which one is for you personally? And you can't itemize that automatically when you get an electronic receipt. But with Grape ID, in the end, obviously it's not going to happen really soon, but the goal is to make it so that every single item it automatically comes in one item with all the associated data for that particular item, so that you can click one button, say, that's for a sales meeting, that's for me personally.
Oh my
Whereas
goodness.
you
So
can't
it's
do
like a
that.
bookkeeping service also. You get to like actually put things in the right categories where you want it to be. So when you go
Yeah,
back and look at it, it's like easy to read and you don't have to spend 5 hours like when you do your taxes, like, okay, this was a meal, this was a equipment, this was uniform.
yeah,
It's like, no, you already did that in a click of a button just when you got the receipt in the first place.
yeah. So you still have to say, hey, this is for business or not, but you don't have to. It's so much easier. You just click and say what it is. Whereas you can do that on your banks and your statements, right? But you can only do it per transaction. You can say this whole transaction is for whatever, or you can then, like in accounting books, you have to split the transactions and say this part is for business and this is for personal, or it's for different accounts or whatever. But when they come split up automatically, then you don't, it's less work to do because they're already split up. So yeah.
I can tell you that that would take me from doing my taxes in like 10 hours to like 10 minutes if I was able to organize it just in real time like that. Because that makes it so much
Yeah,
easier because you like know, 10 minutes after you did something, you're not going to forget, was that for business or was that for personal? If you're trying to do it
yeah,
at the end of the week or the end of the month or the end of the year, like me, yeah, sometimes that gets confusing.
yeah. Are you pretty good at every month or every week, whatever your routine is, if you have a routine,
If we're
and
talking about
of,
taxes and things like that, it's
well,
like
of itemizing and
piles.
categorizing?
So it's like I have piles of stuff that was this week or this day. And then, yeah, I usually do it all at the end of the year because I just am good at procrastinating things. And I need, I need what you have on great. Like I need that to be a
Me
functional
too.
life. Like,
I suck at it. I wasn't trying to point you out because I'm horrible. I do it at the end of every year. And every time I try, I have tried so many times to say, all right, I'm going to go into the bank account and I'm going to say, this is for whatever. I'm going to label them. But then I hit multiple things where it's complicated. And then I have to go click, hit note. And then I have to write an explanation of what it's all about because I can't split things up that I'm like, okay, well, I'll get to that next week, and then it's the end of the year, and I'm like, gosh dang it, I got to do it all now, and then I can't remember.
yeah. It's a fun guessing game at that point. It's like,
It is.
yeah,
Yeah.
but if all of it was just on my phone, I could, like say I just spent like 200 bucks at Walmart. I could go out to the car for 30 seconds and just pull up my phone and go, this was
Yeah.
business, this was personal, boom, done. And then even if you want to make it easier, just give that to your tax person at the end of the year and they can crunch the numbers for you. I usually
Yeah.
crunch the numbers myself. And like I said, I have to set aside like 12 hours to make sure everything's done right. And I hate it. And so like I procrastinate it. And I would love to be one of those people who files my taxes on like the first day that it's open. But I'm always the one who files for an extension and things because I just procrastinate, like what you're saying, like the actual categorization part. And it's not hard, it's just annoying and it's time consuming. And so if I could just do that in 10 seconds every time after I bought something or whatever,
Yeah.
my life would be like infinitely better in every area because of that one day a year that sucks so much.
Yep. Just that one thing alone, you'd have 12 hours or 10 hours, let's just say, left that you could do whatever and go on a day vacation, if we want to put it that way. That way, then it's like just saving time. It saves money too, of course, because time is money and you'd probably have to pay people, or but because you get that extra 10 hours, or you'll get many more. You'll get days, you'll save days and days when all of this stuff works, because just like you may save 10 hours at, with receipt, the process of doing receipts, when you eliminate passwords and robocalls and the time you spend filling out forms and dealing with scams and data breaches or any of that, all that nonsense, you're saving every year days and days and days of your time. You could totally take a vacation and just live a better life because you have a lot less.
Like, this is me celebrating all of
Yeah,
the time I didn't have to do extra verifications and captchas and all of that stuff. Like, that is so crazy. And I love those stats, the ones that are like, we spend like 17 years of our lives sleeping, accumulatively.
yeah,
It's like, you don't really think about that when you're doing those, like you said, scanning your thumbprint, and sometimes it takes 30 seconds, like every time you do it. So imagine 30 seconds of your life every time you scan your thumbprint. And yeah, I wonder how many years that would add up to, in addition to all of the receipt stuff and all of the like robocalls and everything that you just listed. It's like, yeah, I'm sure that actually amounts to a ridiculous amount of time in our lives overall. That why would you not want that time back for yourself and your family and all of the things that
yeah,
you love? It's like, stop giving it away to companies who don't even value, and like processes that are like robotic, that like they don't even care that you're wasting this much of your
yeah,
life. Yeah.
yeah. It's I've I have spent so much time actually going through that I don't remember all of the statistics, but I know that on average, it costs the business $70 every time you reset a password. And when I say password reset, I mean when you call in. At least that's what I think the stat is. The average person does have 159 passwords. The average business person has 200, and I don't remember the number, low 200s of passwords. And then with receipts and multiple different problems that we have, if you eliminate those, I did calculate it one time, and it was 2 weeks, literally 2 weeks, that you would regain in your year if you use the Grape ID to access all of, to be more efficient using your Grape ID, just all these different access, all these different trouble points. You just streamline the process using the Grape ID, and you would get back 2 years of your life. And I know 100% that's even more now, because I over the time that I've been doing this, I keep finding new and new things that it saves people time and money. And I'm like, if you just think about, I've been stuck in a garage before, a parking garage, because I tried to pay and then my card wouldn't work and the gate won't lift, and I had people behind me, and I'm trying to, I'm trying to figure out why my card's not working. So I log in, but then I can't log in because my password, and then I can't, then I have to call the bank account, my bank, to reset the password, but then I have to verify over the phone. And it's just, I've wasted 20 to 30 minutes before being stuck in a parking garage because I can't pay the ticket to get out. And people have been stuck in, I've been stuck in airports too, where my card doesn't work because they get blocked. When you travel, they're like, oh, is this really you? So they just block it, and they don't prompt you necessarily. They are getting better at prompting you, but they block it. And then if you can't reach them or something, then you can't get your Uber, and you're just stuck there waiting for 20 minutes or however long. And yeah, people waste 10, 20, 30 hour long segments of their life on all of these little things because of identity problems. Stuck at the airport, can't get an Uber, stuck in the garage, frustrated at your computer because you can't log into something, or you have to verify 20 billion times, or receipts, robocalls, so many things.
Yeah, so it's like 2 years of your life or 2 weeks a year, and then all of the stress and all of the headache and all of the
Yeah.
motivation and all of the ready to throw your computer out the window and like all of that stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
And the poor souls, I've never had it as bad as some of these people, where you can have life altering events too, where some people have had, their identity hacked, where they can't even use their identity at all whatsoever. So for the rest of their entire life, they have to worry about, they have to pay 200 or whatever dollars a month for things like LifeLock that don't even prevent the problem. They're a reactive solution to try to help mitigate it. But paying that much money for the rest of your life, I know there are events where people have wired all of their cash to buy a home. They've wired it to the wrong person, which
Oh,
is an identity problem. And then they're out hundreds of thousands of dollars or however much because they're buying their house. You know, they wire it to the wrong person. Now that affects them for the rest of their life. Who wouldn't miss $100,000? And there's no way to get it. Businesses have that problem where they wire transfer cash to pay a bill that they received from a phishing email or a scam email. And then it's as small as puppy scams. You've probably seen them maybe in the news where people put an ad for a puppy on Craigslist and you're like, oh, that's so cute. And you go call them up and they're like, yeah, I'm here right now. If you can just Venmo me the $100, then that's easy. So people Venmo and then they never show up, they never get a puppy, and then they never hear from them again. There are things like that. And then like horrible ones where people are sexually assaulted too. For example, there are Uber kidnappings that happen frequently, unfortunately, in the United States. And it's simply because a person does not know, they can't identify and match up very quickly if the Uber driver is the actual Uber driver for them. So people in cars pose to be an Uber driver. And then typically because people are drinking and they're not, always
coherent.
there, yeah, coherent, and they'll just get in a car and then it ends up being that it's a fake car, and then unfortunate things happen that are really obviously life changing, and people have died too. I don't mean like once in the past decade. I mean every year people die from that, whether it's 5 or 10. I believe it's about 50. I don't know how many per year, but I think about 50 to 100 die every year just from fake Uber drivers. So, and those are people that are dying because they can't identify in a quick manner who their Uber driver is. So to say that identity will help save some time or something, or or it makes you a little money, it's an understatement. It will literally change your life in so many ways that people don't
And
even realize.
save lives. Yeah, like,
It
oh
will
my
save
gosh.
lives.
It's like that. I remember when, I forget who did it. I think it was some college students, but they developed the nail polish that will like react and change colors if you like stir your finger in your drink and it has date rape drugs in it, then it will change the color of your nail
Oh,
polish. It's
yeah.
like yeah, we definitely, I would have not even, I didn't know those stats about, the driving services. I'm sure it's not just Uber. I'm sure it's any driving service,
Lyft,
because
Uber, yeah.
yeah, it's just like, yeah, I mean, that makes absolute sense. And I would have never, ever thought about just how easy it is,
Yeah.
especially in inebriated or, kind of
Oh,
chaotic situations, like maybe a sporting event or something where there's tons of people, tons of cars, and you're just kind of like wanting to get out of there as quickly as possible. So you're going to just take the first car that pulls up without necessarily verifying that it's actually the identity of the person you're supposed to be getting in the car with.
yeah. And because I could think of one example in Vegas where it happened and it made the news, and she even said, well, it was the same car and the same, relative color. So she did actually think about it, and because she wasn't inebriated, but she got in, and then soon she realized when the guy was going somewhere and wouldn't respond to her, then she ended up jumping out and broke her wrist and her knee and stuff like that. So she was in the hospital. So she had a physical injury. Luckily, she didn't experience any death or anything, but she was physically injured. And yeah, stalkers. I'm trying to think of. I can't even think of all the examples, but stalkers is another one. Whether it's cyber stalking or physical stalking, generally there's some sort of online research when people stalk you physically. But if they can't find as much about you, this is where it gets into location. That's why
Mm-hmm.
I don't want any of my location data out for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like this, I had no idea that all of this fit into your app and into your mission. And like, holy cow, it's just absolutely incredible.
Well, thanks. We've gone a little more deep in this one than I have with anyone else. So,
Yay, I love that. Well, thank you for doing that.
yeah, I appreciate it. It's been very an excellent discussion. If you do this with everyone that you talk to, then your audience is definitely getting a fantastic experience learning about, all the different people that you interview. So you do a fantastic job.
Oh, thank you. That means so much because I am brand new at it. And so it feels like alignment. And I just absolutely
Yeah,
love and appreciate that feedback. Thank you.
yeah.
Well, we would love to have you back anytime. Like, I know, yes, you can download the app now. Yes, there are features that are working and absolutely functioning that you can take full participation in right now. But like we've had the conversation around, is there are aspects of this that will be in development and take a lot of time and effort. And so it's just one of those things that will be continuously evolving. And so we would love to have you back anytime you have a new chapter that's being unlocked or a new feature that's coming. We'd love to hear about it.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll let you know. I'd love
Thank
to be
you.
back too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great day.
All right. Thank you very much.